Delegates, competitors, judges, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for allowing us to present today. My name is Robin Stubbs and I represent a team called BIM Buds, which is a collaboration of mostly students, industry partners and academia. What we're going to be looking at today is loosely based on engaging society and promoting BIM adoption within the AEC-FM sector. Now, we've taken a slightly different slant on it, say from our previous speakers. The team itself, when we were entering this competition, as we are in an academic institution, we put great emphasis, if you like, in that we wanted to engage students from the School of Engineering. So we split the team mostly 60-40%, where we have students from across the School of Engineering through the various departments ranging from architectural technology, architectural and BIM technology, construction management, sustainable energy engineering, and civil engineering. Accompanying that, we supporting lecturers, but we also incorporated industry partners in the form of SIS, DATEC, and indeed a client who I'll reveal later. I don't want to reveal too early. So when we actually sat down to actually think, and we read the brief that was published by CITA and so on, it was quite interesting. Because we have such a diverse range of industry professionals from within the AEC industry, we decided, well, what kind of approach will we actually take? So we had a brainstorming session. We talked about various ideas, how we'd implement it, what strategy we'd take, what theme would we take, and so on. And what became quite clear when we read through the brief and what the aim of the challenge was that we were looking for an innovative solution to a problem that we perceived was out there at the moment. So, if you like, we've spent so much time within the BIM community, if you like, trying to remove all these silos. We all know what BIM is about. We all know about this working in a silo and so on like that, how it's counterproductive, inefficient and so on. And in maybe the last 5-10 years really in Ireland, we've kind of gone away from the silo and we've created this kind of BIM centralised model and so on. However, by creating this, have we in some ways created a new BIM silo within the industry? If you think about it, a lot of times in industry and so on, and even attending conferences like this, if I was at a conference maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I would probably know maybe 30% of the delegates. Fast forward on 3 years, I'd know maybe 70%, 80% of the delegates and so on. The gene pool of the people operating within the BIM sphere has somewhat lagged in recent times. Now there is still BIM uptake there, we know that. I was at a conference last week in Aberdeen when Professor Philp was giving figures. So I hope I'm not going to ruin anything from your presentation. He's given figures on the rate of BIM uptake within the UK and so on. And he had a very interesting graph which showed the initial first movers, then we have a lag time. And we feel maybe we're at that lag time here now in Ireland. So how do we combat that? You know, the UK government has been great in devising their 2060 framework, shall we say, and all the different documents and level 2 implementation. That's a real top-down approach, in that we're applying a legislative framework which the big guys will take into straight away. How about if we start feeding it from the bottom? So not only are we going to have this legislative framework, we're also going to begin to feed it from the bottom. The social buy-in is a real issue. When I say buy-in, what do I mean? I really mean that we involve all the stakeholders in the process. We're very good at talking to each other now, as you've seen. We've got rid of all these miniature silos. We have a big BIM silo. But what about really engaging? Are we really engaging with all the stakeholders? Be it the clients, be it the public, which ultimately is the guy who's carrying the check, who's going to be paying for this. Do they really feel that they're involved with BIM? And it's a real issue. I'll give you an example that's quite current down the southeast at the moment in the last 6 months, so if anybody's following the national press. Kilkenny County Council and its partners went through a public consultation period for the design of a new bridge. Everything went tickly-boo, went on board from all, there was issues and so on, but they got stakeholder buy-in, if you like. What happened? They did their traditional, if you like, procedures. They had public consultation, they met all the stakeholders again, everything was happy. First sign of construction beginning, protests. What do you mean the bridge is going there? What do you mean it's going to block that view? Why? Because if information was lost in the circle or in the pathway, if you like. There wasn't a clear line of communication that was transported through the whole process. People knew there was a bridge being constructed, people knew where it was going and so on, but they weren't fully engaged and they weren't fully immersed in the project to actually realise what the consequences of this was. So onto our project, we decided to look at a project that would have social consequences for Waterford. We are obviously based down in Waterford and so on. A lot of our partners aren't. We collaborated, as I said, with SIS and DataTech, who are kind of nationwide. But we brought in some of the stakeholders at the very beginning. Now, we do a lot of work with Waterford City Council. We do a lot of work with, if you like, the agencies down in Waterford and so on. So we wanted to pick a project just to act as a template how we were going to implement this, if you like, stakeholder buy-in into our scheme. So we picked the old railway station in Waterford. I'm sure some people have had the honour of arriving in Plunkett Station and so on. The reality is that it's finding hard to maintain its use as a railway station. Waterford is a regional city. It's been through a terrible time in the last 7-8 years. We're down, we're not out, but we're still there, and the train station has really suffered for a variety of reasons. So we got on board with Irish Rail, got on board with Waterford City Council, and got the team, if you like, kind of collaborated with these partners. And what we decided was that we'd have a look at this and actually, if you like, design some social addition or social alternative use for the railway station. For the railway station to survive, it can no longer be just a railway station. It's quite common in other cities and so on, but we decided, well, let's give it a social impact, a social impetus as well. And we deliberately picked something that was going to cause a bit of discourse among the community, because we wanted to feel how they would engage with it. So, true to word, what we did is we contacted the stakeholders. We received, I should say actually before you start seeing the models and so on like that, we are working in collaboration with Waterford City Council all the time. We did devise a SketchUp model, if you like, of the entire city a few years ago. They've now issued us with lighter information, and then we've started building up a BIM model for our city. Now we're slowly adding to it. So we had the base model, if you like, for the train station. I don't expect anyone to expect that we modelled the entire railway station and so on like that in 3 days. We merely took information that was already there in public forum, and if you like, we embellished it. So our first step along the road was actually to engage with the stakeholders and get their opinions on how they see this project as progressing. So I'm just going to play you a short little clip here.
Plunkett Station is a key landmark and focal point in the city. It's not dissimilar to the GPO or Reginald's Tower, and that everybody knows where that station is.
At the beginning stages, if they could envisage what was going to be the end product of what's being put forward on the planning stage, if they had a model of what it's going to look like on site, giving a great idea. Again, not everyone can see what a 2D drawing means in real life.
During the 2006-2007 public consultation phase, do you feel there was adequate social engagement and input from the local communities?
Yes, I do, and I think the fact that there were a number of objections to the application, that and the planning application was appealed to Port Canola, shows that it didn't sail through, but ultimately we were satisfied with the outcome, and the plan is largely intact post the Port Canola appeal process.
Is there any one positive development you'd like to see take place here at Waterford train station?
Yes, I think the obvious one is the ease of access to the station.
So in case you missed it, that was the district manager of Irish Rail for the South and South East, and there was also a representative from Waterford County Council, or Waterford City County Council, I should correctly say now. So on day one we split our team. Our industry partners SIS went over and conducted a laser scan so we could actually validate the existing BIM model we had of the train station to ensure some level of accuracy and so on. But we also had further uses for the point cloud, which we'll come to in a moment. We divided the team into pods, where we had a quick design charrette. This project, I should say, was hosted in the architecture department, so charrettes are kind of a common theme where we have a quick kind of design exercise and so on, where we came up with 3 proposals. Now, the brief we gave to each pod within the team was that it had to be bold and daring. It had to be something that was going to cause public discourse, but actually have a level, if you like, of architectural design rigor applied to it as well. So we went through the normal process in terms of a quick site suitability test, orientation through Fasari, quick modelling and format and so on like that as well, trying to implement as many BIM technologies as we actually could. We decided on one, and we called it the gateway. And it's quite a simple structure in many ways. There's, I think, maybe 7-8 elements in it in total, which imagined raising the busy junction, which caused access and egress problems to the train station, up to a second-storey level, and creating what we call an urban park. But the structure itself was to form as a new gateway to the city. In tandem with that, we redeveloped, say, the top 2 stories of the train station and made them maybe a conference area, a restaurant area, and so on. It really was just a conceptual stage. We obviously hadn't the time to do detailed design work and so on, but this is the process, if you like, or this is the design we decided to develop. So we proceeded then just to develop a few renders and so on, just to get a good feel for the actual project. And we said, what's the best way we can actually test this? How do we get public engagement with our project? How are we going to start feeding, the BIM message to the grassroots, to the stakeholders, to the local authorities, Irish Rail, and to the public? So we staged what we call a public showcase. Now we set up 6 workstations. And this is on the ground floor in the granary in the Department of Architecture, where we have a public restaurant. We set up 6 workstations. First workstation would have been the traditional method of public consultation. Series of 2D drawings, CAD and so on. Then we created a journey through the project, where we called it 3 I's in BIM: information, interaction and immersion. And we wanted to gauge, if you like, the level of understanding from the stakeholders in that process. Now we prepared a questionnaire so we could have some real data at the end of it. We restricted to 25 members of the public. We had an awful lot more than that, mostly students coming down to play with the different toys and stuff on display at the time. But I'll just give you a quick feel in terms of how the showcase went. Oh, you go, sorry. Computer saying no. You just click in the first second of it there, actually. Yeah. That's okay. We'll move on. We'll simply, we might come back to that at the end if we have a bit of time. I'm just going to very quickly go through each of the stations so you have a clear understanding, if you like, of the methodology that we were applying. We wanted to have some level of academic rigour to this as well. We wanted to mine data from this. So the first stage was a series of 2-dimensional drawings, again, which would have been traditional. Now, we were fair enough in terms of most public consultation events of this nature at this stage would actually incorporate 3D renders and so on. We did. We included all that, but we laid them out in 2-dimensional drawings on the wall, and we asked people to fill out an A4 questionnaire, with 1 being a minimum level of understanding and 10 being a level of understanding. Because this was the first station, the vast majority of people gave it a 6 or a 7. They pretended they knew what it was. The vast majority of people really don't understand plans and so on. I know when talking to the AEC, FM kind of industry here, and we take it for granted and so on, but the vast majority of people actually didn't. So then we said, right, how about, sorry, we're some crosswords here. We take you through an immersive experience in terms of public consultation. So we introduced our point cloud interaction. Okay, so this was done by our industry partners on Monday morning, our team members, where we actually went over and took a quick point cloud of the building. Again, just a quick little fly through here. Okay, and we would ask the member, we manned each station, and we asked the member, well, looking at those 2-dimensional drawings, and now looking at the train station, you have a better understanding now what you're dealing with. And obviously, the level of understanding was increased. We've all seen, that's nothing earth-shattering there and so on. It actually was for quite a lot of members of the public, they wouldn't be too familiar with it. We then started developing our interaction stage, if you like, of the tour. Okay, and we gave them a series of models. For in particular, we wanted to get the idea of how the project was going to be, if you like, assembled and so on. So we looked at simple Navisworks model. Now, people are going to snigger because they hear the Grand Designs music. That's quite intentional. Stanley Kubrick once said, pictures tell you what to see, but music tells you how to feel. If we're creating an immersive environment, it's not just visual, it has to be audio as well. So what do? You assemble or you associate the image with something you're familiar with, and it breaks down a barrier. Okay, we went on and we showed them, again, rendering and fly-throughs and so on like that as well. Again, with a similar methodology. That we'd associate music with the 3D fly-around and so on, and then they'd, if you like, engage with it at a higher level. That's all fine and very well. They don't have control of the process at this stage, and they're still, if you like, only interacting with the model and interacting with the project. How about if we actually immerse them in it? What about if we gave them control of the model? So we devised a model out of InfoWorks. And again, I'm taking no credit for the music here. Oh, wait, sorry. Can you click on it there, Joe? Okay, so what's the benefit? I know we have EastEnders in the background, but what we're trying to do is give the stakeholder again a bit of ownership of the model. They can see the town, they can see the project, they can see the roads that they travel to work on every day. They're actually driving this with a joystick. This is a member of the public actually flying around this model. They can hop along roads that they travel, as I said, in and to and from doing their daily chores. It gives them a sense of actually connectivity with the model, and they're actually seeing how this relates to them in their everyday life. They're becoming, if you like, immersed in the project. So we took it one step further, and we decided, well, let's bring virtual reality into it as well. So we said, it's all very well flying the helicopter around and looking at the building. What about if we actually put them in the model and put them in the building? So we brought them in, and we brought the model through Unity software or Unity gaming engine, and we devised then a first-person user interaction where they put on the Oculus Rift goggles and actually fly around the building. Now I have to say that had mixed reports from the people using it, and it was kind of I suppose maybe an age thing as well. Some people found very disorientated from it. We had to put in some controls on the movement through the model and so on like that. But by and large, people were very impressed with it. So after being through that, we went back and actually interviewed the stakeholders again. And then we just have a quick response. Now this is a district manager of Irish Rail. Just a little aside, by pure chance, I'd love to say we organised it and so on, but there was actually a meeting of senior management of Irish Rail down in Plunkett Station at the time. And when we sent an email over saying, pop across the river, we're running this showcase, around 7 or 8 of the senior management of Irish Rail came over. So we think we've made friends, but we said for continuity, we interview the district manager again, Mr. Emmett Cotter.
We're basically taken by the hand and walk through from the very basic all the way through to the virtual tour. And I suppose the greatest strength of this new technology is it takes all the ambiguity out of what you're looking at. So you either like it or hate it, but you know why you like it or hate it. There's no grey areas. And I suppose for future projects going through a planning process, it will help vested interests. But there is a concern over various different aspects of the project to see, if it's there, you can't put on the headset if you doubt what I'm saying. So it's absolutely fantastic.
Literally just a couple more slides. Okay, so what did our questionnaire results show? And just to put it into stats, if you like, so we did mine some data from it, is that if we use our 3 I's of BIM, the first I being information, second I being interaction, and the third I being immersion, that people felt more engaged with the project, up to a level of 60%, because they felt had a better understanding. And when we asked them to return to the first station again and readdress it, the vast majority of them admitted to actually not understanding the floor plans in the first place. So what is the solution? How do we get these guys on board? Well, the more immersion there is, the more social connectivity there is with the process. And that's what came quite clear. Now, for a fairly limited kind of test case and so on. And how do we actually implement that into our project? Well, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. This is a 5-second shot of what's happening in London yesterday. This is devised by a guy called WearData, and it was made if anyone was at the RTC in Dublin Castle there recently, they would have seen it. This is how society is interacting with itself at the moment. This is the platform. The internet has progressed so much from MIT in 1962, or whenever you want to argue with the origins of the internet and so on. But if you look at it, the platform is already there for us. The solution is not some high-tech, high-end, expensive hardware or software. The solution is using digital technologies in an innovative way, BIM technologies in an innovative way, to engage and to immerse the stakeholder and give them ownership, if you like, of the process. Okay, and just simply how that's adopted, the research project that was done and how we could all do it, all open source software, creating a QR code, free download on your iPhone, putting on a site notice, so when someone points their phone at the site notice, boom, they see a 3D model. Immediately, the owner, the client, the stakeholder is immersed in the project. There's a quick little 3 seconds, literally, bringing all the hands to the bridge, showing them the train station as it's being constructed. So again, another open source app.
More easy to understand for people, you know.
Okay, even though this is very, if you like, holistic in some ways, how we readapt our BIM implementation, we use a variety of software. I won't name them all out because they're all there. And the last slide, just in terms of all what I've talked about in terms of BIM technology, it's been 22 picture files, 14 video files, 17 PDFs, 1 point cloud, nearly 3 gigabytes of data, but it's all come from one model. Okay. That's it.
Are there any questions before we break for coffee? Well, if nobody asks a question, I'd like to ask you.
Sure, yeah.
You obviously have undertaken this exercise. How in actual fact are you going to set about propagating the learnings you have from the interaction of the public with superior imagery?
Well, I think it's quite interesting. Only in the last year, say in WIT, we've introduced an undergraduate program called Architectural and BIM Technology, and our graduates are coming out with this skill set already. We have a selection of them here, Jared excluded, of course. Selection of the guys who work on this, you know, as you can probably imagine, they've done the vast majority of this work and so on. So the skill set is there, and I'm sure it's the same for our colleagues in the other ITs around the country and so on as well. The graduate coming out of programs, be it architectural and BIM technology, the construction management and so on, has this skill set already. You know, this is the way that generation, if you like, engage with each other. So it's a natural progression.
Good. Okay, any other questions? I know.
Cognitive technology type, just a quick question.
Good, sorry, I think
Ted McKenna, Cognitive Technology. How do we actually, I'm from civil engineering, structural engineering, trying to fit that sort of technology into a crammed program, because the beauty about civil engineering is the diversity. And you've already said there, you've almost taken architectural technology and given it a specialisation. How do you feel it will work in with civil engineering?
Well, we made a decision a few years ago where we, if you like, we reassessed our whole teaching pedagogy. We operate what's called now a virtual studio. It's paperless. Now we still use paper as a design tool and so on like that as well, but we don't deal in the medium of paper anymore. And when the technology becomes intrinsic within the program, you know, it evolves at a rapid rate. So it's not about trying to fit it in, it's trying to incorporate it and making it the norm. Like we all hope BIM will be the norm in the construction industry from here on in.
Okay, folks, I'd just like again to recognise Robin's presentation and the work the team has done.